So John, you've been reviewing the HTC One Mini 2.
Yep.
It's a weird name, given it's basically a One M8 Mini, but
Yep.
what do you think? Is it the right move for HTC? You know, last year we had the One and the One Mini, good little partnership. I mean, do you think this is in the same league?
It definitely makes sense, that's for sure. Not everyone wants a huge phone with a 5-inch plus screen.
Yep.
Some people with small hands can't put it in, if you've got pockets, bags, whatever. The smaller screen size is also very popular. That's why the iPhone is still so popular, even though it hasn't gone above 4 inches yet.
And why Sony's done things like the Z1 Compact.
Exactly. So it was always going to happen, and people mistake it for the M8.
Yeah.
And it still feels as great. It's very solid. You still get the micro SD slot in the side, as well as a nano SIM tray, which is great. So design-wise, you can't really fault it. You've got boom sound on the front. And you've also got the boom sound integration when you plug in a set of headphones as well to enhance your tracks, which is lovely. It's not all great news. HTC hasn't kept the sort of internal power that you get on the M8, as we saw Sony did keep with the Z1 Compact.
In terms of the specs, you mean?
Yes, yeah. So
this has got a lower spec processor, which I think probably one of the biggest criticisms, really. Isn't
yeah,
it?
so it's running the Snapdragon 400, which is last year's processor, basically. And
but
it's
a higher clock speed.
A higher clock speed than the One Mini, but that's it. But you don't get the sort of power efficiency benefits from the 801, which is in the M8, and that shows through. The battery isn't particularly stellar on the One Mini 2. It will just about see you out a day, but every time I hit the evening, the auto power saving mode would have to come and kick in and get me to bedtime.
And that's last year, isn't it? That's the way we saw phones last year.
Yeah.
This year it's been characterised by the fact that they can easily last a day and probably still keep going to the next morning if you didn't bother charging them.
Yeah.
And I think, I feel like it's a really missed opportunity. I mean, first of all, HTC not calling it the M8 Mini, it loses some of the brand luster, especially when it looks so similar. You know, the reasoning behind that is it doesn't have dual camera, it does have an older processor, but design-wise, it's similar. I mean,
indeed, and on the screen, the same Sense 6 UI. You've got the blink feed, you've got boom sound. So there's still a lot of core HTC features there that are in the higher flagship.
I mean, what did you think in terms of battery life? Was it, the One M8 was really good. Did you find that this really worked as well in terms of, obviously you said towards the end of the day it would run out, but if you're doing high power tasks and stuff, was it
high power
quicker?
task wasn't great.
Yeah.
Video at full brightness really tore through the battery, so if you're going to be watching movies on it, either get yourself near a power supply or turn the brightness down, but it does go a bit dark and muddy if the brightness is quite low.
Yeah.
So really to enjoy a movie you need the brightness up quite high, which then in turn kills your battery. Performance as well from the 400 processor, it's noticeable that it's not as good as the M8. It's not slow, but you do notice sort of every now and then an app will take a couple of seconds longer to open. Just opening something simple like messages, where you expect to tap it and your messages come up. You tap it on the M8, not the M8 Mini, the One Mini 2, and the text messaging app pops up and briefly it says no messages, and then it loads my list of messages, and it's just little things like that which are a bit jarring and feel like a phone which is, sub £100. That's the sort of speed we expect. We don't expect that from a device which looks and feels as premium as the One Mini, and actually costs as much as it is. We expect more from phones these days.
So I'm at the end of my smartphone contract. I'm looking for a new handset. Should this be the one I go for, or should I look maybe for the higher end phones, or go budget and think about hitting the £100 mark?
If you're really falling in love with the One M8 and love the design, but just can't stretch that extra bit of money to get it, then definitely go for the One Mini 2. It gives you all very similar features, almost all of them, at a lower price and in a smaller size. But if you're looking for a decent phone at this price point, I'd say the Z1 Compact is only slightly more expensive and offers a better package. Or you could look at last year's LG G2, which is still a very good phone. It's been updated to KitKat, it's got a great screen, full HD, and it's actually cheaper. Or if you can get an invite, the OnePlus One, it's a big handset, 5.5 inches, but the specs are far superior.
And how much is that?
It's about 270, 280, I think, for
fair enough.
64 gig.
And so how does this compare maybe to the bottom end? If you're thinking like, well, there's a Moto E for £80, is there a big gulf between the two?
Yes. Yeah, the Moto E performance-wise, it doesn't match the One Mini 2. The Moto E does all your basics very well, but you try and do any heavy lifting at all with it, and it will struggle. This can run all the games I threw at it. It managed to run. Maybe the load times were slightly longer, but there wasn't that much of a difference.
And so, this is around £370 SIM-free, and for only £100 more, I'm looking at the Galaxy S5s, the One M8s. You're at the top end of smartphones. do you not feel that maybe it should be a little bit cheaper for given how much lower spec it is compared to the best of the best out there?
I don't know, 360, 370 sounds about right. Maybe if it was sub 350, it may have been slightly better fit, but I think the pricing's around right. You're probably better off going on a tariff though, pick up the handset for free, and hopefully you'll be able to get £21 a month around that on it, but you'll have to have a look around. Yeah.
And so final thoughts, is this a good phone from HTC, or are they just trying to copy what they did last year and it's not quite worked out?
In terms of design, the One Mini 2 is a vast improvement on last year's One Mini. It marries up to the bigger One M8 a lot closer, and that makes for a great looking and feeling device. On screen, unfortunately, it's let down a little bit by the older processor. There's a little bit of slowness going on, but it's not a huge issue, although there are better alternatives out there if you're looking at this size and price range.